Hurry, get over here. You'll miss the show.
Take two. Actually, after getting in an argument, we decided to kill the first video. So we are here having a conversation. And as most people know, that in ministry, you never minister to your own home. Because if you think you're a priest in your own home, guess what? The priest in Aaron's home was you-know-who. And Moses had Aaron and, who else in the home. So let that be a lesson to you, man, that if you think you're a priest in your own home, you probably got a revolt just waiting to happen. So here I have Lori. Now, it just so happens she's
where'd you get those glasses?
It just so happens she's my wife, so you're going to see a lot of kind of like sparks fly maybe at times because I do one thing and she does another, so I like Pepsi, she gives me coffee. But since we're having conversations and I mentioned coffee, we got in a fight about the coffee. So then we got over that fight, so then we started recording.
Yeah, he didn't want me to make it for him.
So then after getting in a fight over the coffee and then getting in a fight over the first recording where she was whispering and not doing anything, we have notes. So we can be honest and real because that's what we do on VidDevo. We're who we are. And hopefully she'll be who she is. So now, who are you? And don't tell me Puddintain, I hate that way.
I'm a bleached blonde. I'm really ashen gray underneath all.
Really? As young as you look, how old are you?
I'm 55. I'm younger than you.
Never ask a woman what her age is.
I have no problem telling people my age.
Cool.
Because I don't feel that age. Unless I take 3 flights of stairs up to our apartment. Then I feel older than that age.
Yeah. A little bit louder.
And so do you.
Well, we are getting older.
And this is Boo Boo. My husband gave me Boo Boo before I even met him. Boo Boo came with the biggest bouquet of flowers I ever saw in my life that arrived on my doorstep with Boo Boo attached. So if I go anywhere, if I travel back east, where I was born and raised, Boo Boo comes with me.
As I mentioned one time in one video, I blame it on the bear. Apparently, when I sent her some flowers from FTV, let that be a lesson for you single men, my daughter's children took the flowers, and she can tell you the rest of the story.
What you talking about?
Your children, what they did with the flowers.
What my kids did with the flowers?
Yeah. Or do you even remember?
I don't know what you're talking about.
You came home and they were in your bedroom or something? And
they were sitting in my bedroom next to my bed, and they were all excited. Mom, you got flowers. And I'm like, from who? They go, we don't know. And it was from?
Cool. You tell the story. It's your story. I wasn't there.
That's it. That's all I know.
There were no bears there?
I said the bear came with the flowers.
But you didn't explain about the flowers came and where did it...
Oh, I know. I'm just a little slow. Michael lived in Alaska, in the bush. And we were talking about Alaska, and there are bears in Alaska. So I told him I am afraid of bears. So the bear came with the flowers, and on the note it said, so are you afraid of this bear? Is that what you meant?
Huh. Wow.
Where are you going?
So I went out and got a real Alaska bear.
That was like a year and a half later. And I remember we brought him home in like the middle of a snowstorm. Anyways, my granddaughter likes that big bear. She spotted him the minute she came into our apartment.
A little louder.
So, what's next?
Your granddaughters.
My grandkids? Well, I have 5 kids, 2 stepkids, 3 kids. My stepkids live in California.
A little louder. Start soft again.
Along with their kids, and they are like my own kids because I helped raise them. They were 2 and 7. And now they're in their late 30s and early 40s. And then I have 3 birth children. And I have, how many? They each have 1 child that lived here in Utah with us. So I have a 13-year-old grandson and a 3-year-old granddaughter and a 10-month-old grandson that live here.
So where do you live?
With you.
Because people on VidDevo don't know where you're coming from. You need to, if I ask you questions, I'm going to try to get you to open up a little more about where you live, and people don't know where you live.
I live in
Louder?
Utah.
Okay. And where's
Smack dab in the heart of Mormon country. Which I lived here for 25 years.
Where is here?
Raised my kids in a house in Bountiful. So I raised my kids here, and when I met Michael, I left for 8 years, and now we have returned back here with my kids again. So I am a happy mom and grandma now, being around my kids again.
Why did we move back to?
We moved back here because I got laid off, and I was having a hard time finding any unemployment. And Michael was praying about it, and God said, time to go. I wanted to come for a lot of years back here. And God kept telling Michael no. So one day God told Michael yes. After I kept praying, God, speak to Michael. Tell Michael it's time to go. And I just kept praying for that. And finally one day, God said yes.
What was it like at the church you were at?
Oh, the church we were at in Sacramento was so sad to leave.
Why?
It was Calvary Chapel, Laguna Creek, and Rich is the pastor there, and Rich is just very blessed, and every single Sunday and Wednesday night, he is just so blessed by God, and so filled with the Spirit, and just wonderful. So we watch him either live online now, or we'll, what's the name of that thing, and stream it?
That's live.
No, what's the name of the...
Live stream.
Live stream? Is that what it's called?
So you say he's so blessed, and you say he's so wonderful, but how? What?
I have never been to a church where I have learned so much and felt so much at peace within my soul.
Okay. How so? You talk like a Christian, but what about people that don't understand what you're saying? What's it like?
He doesn't talk about the fleshy stuff about this world. It's all about Jesus. It's all from reading right from the Bible and teaching about the Bible. And he has a gift of knowing what the word is, what it's saying. He's not guessing or making up things or commenting on what someone else has had to say about it. He really gets into the depths of the word and can explain it better than any other pastor I have ever known. And that whole entire church and all the people that go there are just blessed.
When you went to another church, what was it like? The one that you went to right before it? What was that like?
Boring compared to this. It was a good church. It was, the worship was good, really good. It was more upbeat, modern, made you want to tap your feet and clap your hands. It was really good music, more like from the radio. And he was a good topical minister, and I got a lot out of that, but it wasn't
and helping others.
Reading through the chapter and taking it verse by verse by verse, like Rich does, like Calvary Chapel does.
When you went to Calvary Sacramento, what was that like? The Calvary Chapel that was in Sacramento.
I just talked about Laguna Creek, right?
No, that's not in Sacramento. The Calvary Chapel that's the biker church.
Oh.
Did you like that one?
That was just like 6 years ago when I went there. It was good. It was good at the times I went.
So what happened when you took your husband?
Which husband? You or my ex?
I don't know. Did you ever go with your ex to Calvary Chapel, Sacramento?
No.
Well, then
When I
explain
went
to the
with you,
people.
I did.
Explain to the
I
people
don't
about your
remember.
ex then. What about
I
your
don't
ex?
remember when you and I went.
'Cause
I mean, I
people-
remember we went, but I don't.
People don't understand about your ex. Ex what?
The father of my kids.
Okay. So did you have a chance to take him to a Calvary Chapel in Sacramento?
No, because I wasn't saved back then.
Okay.
I didn't get saved till I met you.
So he was in California at some point in time? I'm just wondering why you said for which husband to take to Calvary Chapel.
Because I'm so used to saying just which husband.
Ah, okay. Well, however you feel like.
You and I both have a habit of saying my current husband.
I have a habit of saying that. I don't know if you've ever seen me say that, but
I do all the time to other people.
cool. So you went to Calvary Chapel, Sacramento. You liked it a little bit, but you moved on. Why did you move on to a different church? Did you ever go with
I only
me?
went to Calvary Chapel, Sacramento when I was here in town once for Christmas with you. When we came for Christmas, you and I went.
Sacramento?
I'm thinking Salt Lake.
So
That's why I'm confused. Calvary Chapel, Sacramento, we went to a couple of them. Other than Laguna Creek, we tried a couple of them, and it was mostly elderly people.
we went to one Calvary Chapel that was in downtown Sacramento. That's Calvary Chapel, Sacramento. We went to another Calvary Sacramento. We also went to
All
the
the
warehouse.
ministers were never there.
The warehouse. Okay. So tell me about that. What's that mean to you? That the ministers were never there? Or the pastor?
Well, with you, if the pastor's not there, then that tells you you're not supposed to be there.
Why?
That's what you told me.
Okay. In other words, so this is what I explained to you, and I mentioned, before that when I was looking for a church for my wife to grow in or to get more intimate with people, I prayed that God would eventually send her to a place that she could grow on her own without me influencing her. Because, like I mentioned at the beginning of this, or maybe the previous one, that a prophet is without honor in his own home or his own countryside. And we know that Jesus, when he went back to Nazareth, he could do not many miracles there because they knew him as the carpenter's son. A lot of times your ministry may begin in your own home, but that doesn't mean you're the minister of your home. The person who is the minister of your home is Jesus. He is the head of your household. He is the person in charge of the church. He really is the third part of your marriage. So with my wife, as being a new believer, I wanted her to develop her own personal relationship with Jesus. And as she'll explain in her own testimony, she has her own different relationship with Jesus than I do. And because she does, she grows in one way, and I grow in another way. And the closer we get to Jesus, the closer we get to each other. That's how we've been taught, and that's how I presented it to her. So in seeking churches, I know that I have an influence on people around me. And it's not easy for me to fade into the wall work, the backspace, and not be seen or heard or known or somehow made manifest. So I didn't want her to be influenced by that, to live under a shadow or somehow not have her own identity. So I've always prayed that the Lord would take us to the right place, the right time, the right church or fellowship that she could be intimate with and grow from. And every time that we went out to look for a church like that, all the different Calvaries, they would not be there. How many churches would you say we did that to?
3.
Oh, none of them in Nome? None of them in other cities? None of them in Anchorage? None of them in other places?
I went alone. You didn't go with me in Alaska.
The churches that I remember, as husbands and wives often do, was 5 that were in the Sacramento area and vicinity, that none of the pastors were there when I went and saw. When she would take me to a church and I'd go there, it would be a visiting speaker. So I would evaluate it and say, well, if you like it, keep going, but I need to stay where I'm at doing what I was doing, which was in the ministry. So until Calvary Chapel Laguna Creek came along, there was no church that we actually had the minister or the pastor be there on the day that we visited. So what happened on the day that you and I came to church that first time? What did you notice?
The pastor was there.
Besides that, what did you notice? What were you doing when we both showed up at church? Watching me?
I always watch you in church, and I watch you to see if you're going to shake your head no or if you're going to shake your head yes. And through the whole entire sermon, you were shaking your head yes. because you couldn't disagree with any single thing the pastor said, which was, hey, bless you.
Have you seen that before where I disagree with
No,
pastors?
never. You always disagree with pastors. I've never seen one agree with the pastor totally. And I don't think there was any single service we went to at Laguna Creek that you disagreed with anything.
How long did we go there?
About 5 months.
About 6 months. So were you amazed that there could be that unity or that oneness?
From you? Yeah. I'm shocked.
Why? Do you think that I'm just a disagreeable person?
No, you just know the Bible inside and out.
Is that...
So you know when a pastor is contradicting the Bible or contradicting himself or not quite getting the story right.
So that brings up an interesting point. Since you have been with me and you have seen that, how would you describe some of your experiences with me that you've seen in ministry? Like, okay, for instance, starting a church. Remember when we helped start a church? How was that for you?
And Jonathan, that was actually a blessing.
Describe
really
what
enjoyed
happened.
it.
Where's that again? What went on?
Dunnigan's about 45 minutes outside of Sacramento, north of Sacramento. And we lived in the back of the church in one room. And we helped the pastor open up a old historic church to get that going. And we had 2 services. And he actually had 2 churches. Both have been closed, and it's a town of like 550 people. So we would do the one service, and then we would haul everything back over, coffee pots, microphones, music stands, everything from one church to the other, and it was 2 different types of people that went to each service.
So how did you like that?
I enjoyed serving.
Did you learn anything?
And I don't mean serving the coffee and the food and stuff. I mean serving the Lord, getting to know the people. I probably learned quite, for the early part of my years of getting saved, I probably learned quite a bit there. Between the pastor, the pastor's wife, my husband. The pastor would stray a lot in teaching the Bible and telling a lot of stories. But I probably, my first real growth spurt in the Lord was probably there.
Cool. When did you get saved?
About 9 years ago in Alaska, in the bush.
Where's the bush?
King Salmon off Bristol Bay.
Is that like little tiny bushes, or is it like big giant bushes?
No, it's all of the bush, because you can only get in by plane or by boat.
Okay.
It's off Bristol Bay.
Where's that at? Is that like way up by...
I don't know, it's part of Alaska.
Okay.
One of the islands at the bottom of Alaska.
It's an island? Bristol Bay?
You can't get there by driving, so it's gotta be an island.
No. But that's okay.
What do I know?
It's, you go across from Anchorage and just fly up just a little bit north of here, and it's on a giant peninsula.
A peninsula is like an island.
You can't get there.
It's got water all the way around it. A peninsula does.
The only reason you can't get there by...
Make me look stupid, boy.
The only reason you can't get there by cars because there are no roads to get there. There are snowmobiles that could make it, but it's too far from the main highway. You have to fly many hours. How long did it take you to fly there?
I don't remember.
You're in a little tiny plane, getting out in the middle of nowhere.
I don't remember.
How big was the town?
There was 1,500 people between King Salmon and Naknek, and it was 15 miles from one town to the other, and the 2 towns combined, the population was 1,500.
So was there a road between...
There's one road. There's only one stoplight, and that's not a stoplight. There are no stoplights. one stop sign, and that was right where you turn into the post office.
Is that where you learned about bears?
Oh, yeah, that's where I learned about bears. And learned how to drive a stick, which I'll never drive again.
So you moved to Alaska. You got saved in Alaska. What was that like? How did you get saved? What was your salvation experience?
Well, I didn't even know what it was to even be saved. I grew up back in Cape Cod and went to the Cape Cod Federated Church, and I went all through Sunday school and junior high fellowship and high school fellowship. My mom taught Sunday school. My dad attended there from the age of 4. And I never knew what it was to even be saved until I met you.
So if I can interrupt for a minute, your church that you went to, what was it like? I mean, you say Cape
That
Cod,
was awesome.
Cape Cod Federated
Church. Of Hyannis.
Is that like a Anglican?
I think it was a cross between Presbyterian and Episcopalian,
Okay,
something like
that
that.
makes sense. So it had a man pastor, a woman pastor.
I had a man pastor, Reverend Schultz, for years and years. He was the pastor of the college for 50-something years.
Schultz?
Schultz.
Sounds Jewish.
Sounds German.
Just kidding. Trying to put a little plug in there for him. So who was there when you're at the end?
And then after he died, then they, every few years, went through different...
Okay. So you're back
I left by, Reverend Schultz was still there when I left, when I was in high school to go out to Utah to go to college.
So what would you say, how much would you say you knew about Jesus or the Bible or anything from your church?
The stories we were taught growing up.
Just stories? I mean, did you know Jesus? Would you say you knew
I did not have a personal relationship with Jesus. I believed in God. I believed in Jesus. I believed in prayers. I prayed all my life growing up. I remember listening to Billy Graham with my grandmother and watching Billy Graham. I remember watching Billy Graham at home. I remember getting on my knees with Billy Graham a couple times. I probably got saved by Billy Graham back then, but didn't realize what it was all about.
Okay. Did it make a difference in your life, or did you just go on from after praying still with your life the way it was?
I don't know if it made a difference in my life. I was too young.
Okay. So what was the difference with getting saved now as opposed to being saved then? I mean, when did you say that you have a personal relationship with Jesus? Or is that what you would say?
I have a personal relationship with Jesus. I talk to Jesus all the time. I read my Bible faithfully every morning. I pray every morning. I know more about Jesus through going to church. I know a lot about Jesus by just listening to you, which is so long-winded, and I also get tired of watching his hands flying everywhere. That I can only last so long, and he ends up putting me to sleep. Seriously. Not that I don't love listening to him. I just get too relaxed listening to him, and I'll end up doing the bebop thing.
So what happened in Alaska then?
I went out. You were working at a motel. And I went out on the patio one day, and I just asked Jesus into my life. I had written down the sinner's prayer on a piece of paper, and I said the sinner's prayer. And that was the day I got saved. Did I have any kind of miraculous feeling? No. Did I see anything miraculous? No. Was anything out of the norm? No. Cool. So nothing special. But from then on, my life has changed.
How's it changed?
I trust more in the Lord to take care of me and the things in my life. I have this peace within me. I don't stress about things the way I used to. Yeah, I get worried about things, but I still have a peace inside me that the Lord will work it out the way it's supposed to be. I don't feel as panic-stricken about certain things. You know, I still get nervous about certain things, but like 1/10 compared to the way I used to be.
Cool.
I don't treat my life as fleshy as I used to.
What do you mean by fleshy?
Just, I don't know. I used to party, maybe get drunk once in a while, you know. Now if I party, I'll have like maybe a glass of wine. That's it, go home early, you know. It's not like it used to be.
So, if we were going to talk about religion, you know, and you say you live in Bountiful, Utah, are you a Mormon?
No,
Why not?
I choose not to be.
What do you define as a Mormon? What do you think a Mormon is?
A member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Okay. Well, what's that mean?
I have Jesus, they have Joseph Smith.
Is that what you would define being a Mormon as? I mean, how long did you live in Utah?
Before, 25 years or more.
So, were you a Christian while you were in Utah, or you didn't? You said you got
No.
saved in Alaska, so you weren't a Christian.
I had all Mormon neighbors on all Mormon neighborhoods. They would come over and they tried to give me lessons to become a member of the Mormon church. The kids' father was born and raised Mormon. The kids' grandparents were raised Mormon.
So why didn't you become Mormon, or did you become Mormon?
No, I did not want to.
Okay. Why not?
I looked into it, but I decided no, I don't want to.
Was there anything that stopped you, or was there some particular
I
reason?
didn't believe in what they believe in.
Well, I don't understand.
I don't believe in this guy, Joseph Smith, and the angel that spoke to him. And the
Okay. So is that what really stopped you? Was that the whole idea of some angel talking to some guy, and that didn't feel right to you?
It was a big part of it.
Was there anything else? Was it like contradiction?
They never talked about God or Jesus very often.
Okay.
They would pray, and they would pray, you know, to our Father in heaven, and they would ask for blessings and stuff like that, but there was no meat.
So in those days, would you call it meat, or would you just say it wasn't about talking to God, or somehow?
It wasn't about talking to God.
Okay. Do you talk to God?
I talk to God all the time.
Does he talk to you?
I don't know.
Really?
Did you say he does? I don't know.
I mean, it's your call.
I would assume he talks to me because,
It's
you know,
not for me to say. I can't say one or the other.
I make certain choices in my life, and I assume that they come from God.
So, by way of your own choices, you think that's how God speaks?
I think God speaks and directs me.
So does he
You know,
influence your choices, or how does God
yeah,
speak
he
to you?
influences
I mean, how
your
does God
choices.
speak to
Like
you?
if I want to do something, and sometimes I'll hear this little voice in my head go, "No, that's God."
Okay, is that your conscience or God?
Well, it's not my conscience. Your conscience can bring up all kinds of stuff. It's
Okay.
usually wacky stuff.
So you'd say, I mean, if I was trying to understand you with
Your conscience makes excuses.
if I was going to understand you with what you're telling me, then God does speak to you. Because you just said that little voice inside you.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you afraid to say that?
Well, I just said I just don't know how to put it into words, so I always say I guess so.
Well, I thought you said no.
I said I guess so.
Okay.
We'll find out what we're
video tell the truth. You know, it's interesting. Now, how would you say? How do I? She's throwing things at me like what she thinks she got done on her own little notes to keep track of. So, would you say that God speaks to me.
Oh yeah, God speaks to you all the time.
How do you know that?
God is good to him too. He always gives them a parking place in the front door.
Oh, is that one way?
All the time.
How many times did you say?
Pretty much almost every time we go shopping.
Doesn't that happen for you?
And I go, God loves you. Never. I actually park further away on purpose and walk.
So do you see God as personal or just circumstantial?
Personal. He's very personal.
Do you think that Jesus actually, we can ask him for things and he answers?
Yes, and the Bible tells you that.
Okay. What would you say is the one most important scripture you ever memorized?
Trust the Lord with all thy heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Plural.
Wow.
Everybody always puts path. You look at these little things in the store with the sayings on them, and it's always P-A-T-H. But in the Bible, it's P-A-T-H-S.
Praise the Lord. So, you mentioned that you have children, but you didn't mention any of their names.
Chad, Tracy, Michelle, Jennifer, and Frank.
Okay.
But Jennifer likes to be called Jen now that she is older. She does not like me to use Jenny. She doesn't like to use Jennifer. She likes Jen.
Why do you call her my Jen?
My Jen? I have no idea. Do I do that?
Yeah, you always say my Jennifer or
My Jen?
My Jenny.
Oh, probably because my stepson Chad, his wife's name is Jennifer also.
Oh,
So that's probably why I say my Jen.
okay. You always say it in this loving way, you know. And how would you describe your one daughter, Michelle, I think, compared to Jenny? What's Michelle like?
Well, I used to think that Michelle, she's my oldest born, and I used to think that she was more like me. She's more like me in the different things I used to do, like traditions and stuff. She's very traditional.
What's that mean?
And she does, what we would do at family parties, like Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, all those kind of things. She's
Likes to
stick
put
to
on parties?
traditions. And likes to put on parties, and I used to do that, and now she doesn't. My Jen, puts on her own parties, but it's very different. Michelle is very organized and planned. Jen is more fly by the seat of her pants and more forgetful. But what I started to say was, I thought Michelle was more like me. And it seems as my Jen is getting older, I'm discovering that Jen is probably more like me, emotionally wise, in the way she thinks and things, where Michelle is probably more on the materialistic side and doing things more like me, and that's what I was recognizing. You know, but then as I've gotten older and I'm more in touch with my emotions because of the Lord, I can see more of what my Jen is like.
Mm-hmm. So what's Frankie like, your son?
My son Frank he's a sweetheart. Likes to take care of ladies. He loves his new baby boy. He loves to do things with his hands. But he doesn't quite often think things out before he does something. He more like reacts to something instead of thinking things out.
Do you think that's because he's young?
I think part of it is because he's young. If you call 27 young these days, I don't know. And I think part of it stems from having a reading disability growing up.
Okay.
So he just learned to, rather than read about things and learn about things, he learned more to do things just by doing and watching and stuff like that.
Like a craftsman learns from his father or something.
Yeah, and watching other people.
Are any of your children saved?
I wonder about Frank. As far as I know, none of my children are saved, with the exception of Frank could possibly be, because I know he said the sinner's prayer with me when he went to church with me one Christmas in Salt Lake, and I know he said the sinner's prayer.
Okay.
So in my book, if you ask Jesus into your heart, you're saved. And Jesus never takes that away from you.
Well, yeah, I don't think Jesus ever takes anything away from you. They that call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved.
And
Shall be. Doesn't mean they are, but shall be.
and he had this horrific motorcycle accident in California where he didn't make the corner, went flying off the bike, launched 100 yards in the air, and he was launched over the trees. The bike hit the tree, but he was launched over the trees and landed right in the clearing. Now, it was a clearing with poison oak, but he also did not get poison oak either.
So if you wanted to say something to your children about your faith, do you think that you could express it now on camera, or do you think that your children are influenced by, they think that you're brainwashed or influenced by me, and that you're just going along with what I do because you're...
Oh, I think they think that I'm brainwashed by you. But my mother, on her deathbed, she said to me, she says, I know how strongly you have always believed in the Lord and how much you have loved the Lord. My mom knew. She knew. And my father, too.
So tell me about your mother.
My father and I can talk about God, but what your question was, if I was to say to my kids, yeah, probably in the beginning Michael was a very large influence and helped to point me in certain directions, yeah. But I have my own beliefs, and I always believed in God, and if my kids will remember and believed in Jesus, that I was the one that always wanted to read the story about Jesus at Christmas time. I was the one that always said at at Easter, let's not forget that Jesus died for us on the cross. So my kids should always know that was always there in our home. And on Sundays I would make dinner, and I made them all sit down on Sunday for dinner. And not every time, but if everybody was there all at once, because some were always coming in late or something, I would want to say a prayer. So they can't say that. They always know it was there deep down and underneath, no matter how hard they fight it and say, oh, it's Margaret's fault.
Well, but would you agree that they feel like you abandoned them at some point in time when you left?
Oh, I know they feel like that I abandoned them.
Is there anything you would like to say about that moment in time when you, describe the time? To give let me set it up for a minute.
I was on the down road.
My wife, Lori, is about to describe some personal feelings and some personal emotions that she went through that was very challenging, in the sense that she had to do what we would normally say is, if you're a Christian, experience an Abraham moment, when God literally reached down and spoke to Lori without her knowing it, to leave her family behind, that she would go to a faraway land, to a faraway country, and that she would experience a new family and a new home. She would have to leave everything behind in order to gain that, and she did. and she gained me. And in gaining me, she wound up discovering Jesus and learning to have a family of God that is what you are. And so, unfortunately, because she left her family behind, they also have emotions and feelings about that. So she'll tell in her own story what happened at that moment.
I was daydreaming. I'm sorry.
That's okay. So what was it like at that moment for you and your children? What was the scene like before you left?
Oh, sad.
What was happening? What was happening at that moment in your time in life?
Oh. I had divorced the kids' dad, and I had remarried for 10 years. And he was a really bad alcoholic. And I was right there with him, drinking with him. And
so would you say you became
an
alcoholic?
I became an alcoholic, but I was a functioning alcoholic.
Okay.
Where he was out on the floor, non-functioning and blackout. I never had blackouts. I basically just enjoyed the taste of the drink.
Okay.
I didn't like getting drunk. I enjoyed the taste of the drink.
Did he do drugs?
So he was a medication drug user. Codeine.
Okay.
Codeine cough syrup or pain pills. Me, I was over medicated.
Occasional, or was it like you would say abusive?
He became abusive towards the end.
Okay.
With it. And I was over medicated with blood pressure pills and Xanax.
Okay, tell me what kind of drugs you were on.
I just did.
Well, you said blood pressure, so you're on...
Blood pressure pills, 800 milligram prescription ibuprofen, and Xanax.
Okay. No Valiums or anything like that? No Downings?
No, Xanax is like...
So same thing.
It's like a Valium.
Any pain medications you were taking at the time?
Nope.
Just drinking and...
When I came to meet you, I had a 2-pill, and I came with a 10-day supply of pain pills when I got there, but...
What else did you bring with you?
They were gone. I brought a bottle of whiskey. Because I didn't know if I could buy it in the bush.
Did you ever open it?
Yeah. I had I don't know, it took me a while to drink it, because pretty much I gave up.
I didn't know you ever drank it. I thought you poured it out.
No, I drank like a glass one day, 4 days later, another glass, 2 weeks later, another glass. It got further and further apart.
Cool.
It was only a small bottle.
So, you had been married to this man for 10 years, you said?
Yep, and he had an affair and walked out on me. I couldn't afford the mortgage anymore.
So, your children were with you at this time?
My kids were with me.
You had your own house? Were you...
I had my own house.
Okay, and your children were living at home?
My kids were living at home.
How old were they?
And a couple other people, too.
So you had a house full of kids?
And, yeah. And I told them all I needed help. I couldn't afford to pay the mortgage.
How old was your oldest daughter?
Frankie was 17, so Jenny was 5 years older than that.
So she's 23, which is fine. And how old's your Michelle?
27.
So 17, 23, and 28, and they were living at home with you. Okay, were they married?
And Michelle's, my grandson Colin was living with us too.
Okay, so Michelle, was she married?
No.
Okay, so Michelle and your grandson, and how old was your grandson?
He was 4.
Okay, and they're all living at home, and you said there were other people living in the home too?
Yep, I had another gal Michelle's age, living in the basement.
Okay. Was she, how old was she?
Michelle's age.
Oh, okay, Michelle's age, 20-something, in the 20s. And anybody else?
Frankie had a friend of his living in the basement with him also.
Okay, and how many bedrooms do you have?
5.
5 bedrooms, and you had you plus 5 kids living with you. Or should we say 5 adults living with you?
Yep.
So now we know the situation, and your husband walks out on you, and who's making the house payments at the time?
He and I together, because we were both working.
Where were you working?
I had gotten laid off, so I was working at dinner. It's just to keep food on the table.
So minimum wage
I
job?
was working minimum wage.
Were your children giving any money?
They were all working.
They're all working? Did they participate?
I would get a little bit of money here and there. I'd get $50 here, $50, or they would go grocery shopping or something.
So there was no real schedule, no plan, just kind of whatever came up?
There was a plan.
Oh, okay.
But they didn't stick to it.
Okay, so now we kind of understand a little bit about the life situation. So here it is. You've got kind of a husband that walks out on you, so you're at kind of like a bad situation, it seems like. So your children felt like you abandoned them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything you'd like to say about that situation since they can see this?
Well, because of the Xanax and because of the alcohol, if I had not left them to go see you, I'd probably be dead by now.
So do you think maybe God interrupted your life at that moment to pull you out of a bad situation to get you into a better situation?
Oh, heck yeah.
Did you wind up getting a better job in Alaska?
Yeah, I got a way better paying job.
Did you wind up getting your self-esteem back?
Yeah, I did.
Did you wind up getting your self-confidence back?
Yeah, and I also weaned myself off alcohol and pills.
So you wound up changing
On my
your
own.
life. So you wound up, or somebody wound up changing your life, and your life was better for having left.
Yep.
Would you agree to that?
Yeah, I couldn't think clear. I was always paranoid all the time. I could feel the Xanax wearing off, and I'd get shaky.
So when your husband left you, and you were living in this house, at the moment that you left, were you able to keep making the house payments?
No.
Were you winding up losing the house?
We were going to either be foreclosed on or needed to claim bankruptcy.
So now, is there anything that you would like to say? I mean, you mentioned about how you felt better, you became better, you got your life back together, you became, more of a person, and then you wound up finding Jesus and you got saved. So would you say that your life has been better since you met Michael, or has it been worse than when you started?
No, it's been better physically wise, and it's been better emotionally wise for me.
Really? You look so sad about that.
I'm just trying to think what else. That's my brain going.
No, that's fine.
Can't you see the smoke coming out?
So would you say you're glad to be married to Michael, or are you just kind of...
That depends on the day. We have our moments. I love him.
Well, do you think you'd ever divorce me? I mean, that's fine.
No, I'd just leave you.
So...
Forget the divorce.
There you go. So...
Been there, done that. Don't need it.
So with your children involved...
We don't have anything to split anyway, so...
So with your children involved, would you say that your situation is better now, having come back to the state, than what it was before?
Yeah, because they're all grown up and they're all mature and they all have babies and they now understand what it is to have a house to take care of, to have responsibilities to take care of, to have children to take care of. And they learn that, it's not all perfect.
So would you say that you become friends with your children now?
Yeah.
Do you think that they still hold it against you for having left in some ways, or do you think they're over that?
No, I think they're over that.
Well, that's good.
And we're really happy on that.
So tell me about your grandchildren.
Well, let's see. I have a 13-year-old grandson, Colin. He was the grandson that was living with me in the house, and he was there from when he was born until he was 4. He's in 8th grade, and he's a big boy. he doesn't take after his grandma. He takes more off after his other grandparents' side of the family. And he's a well-behaved boy. He's very respectful of his mother. He's starting to get into that age where he's starting to get a little bratty. But he's been a really good kid so far. He's done well in school. He loves sports. He did wrestling for a while. He did basketball. He loves baseball. He's always on the Little League every year. And he tried out for soccer and made it, but when Mom found out how expensive it was, they nixed that idea for him to play this year. So I think he'll always be in sports as he's going through school. And sometimes it's a little tough for him because he has a little touch of asthma, but he doesn't let it get him down.
And he's not safe.
And he's not safe, no. And then the next one is Olivia. She's 3. She's the princess of the family. She always has to wear her princess outfit. And she's got the little plastic high heels that go click, click, click all over the floor, and we all remember those. She loves watching all the movies like Tangled. I can't think of names in a while, but she'll watch them over and over and over and over again. And she knows them all. She's very smart. And if you say anything, she remembers what you said. Like, for instance, I went over and my daughter did my hair a few weeks ago. And Olivia sat in my lap and I said to her mom, I said, she is on fire. She doesn't feel she's burning out. Well, a couple days later, she was telling somebody something, and she says, yeah, Grandma came over, and I was sitting on her lap, and she said I was on fire. I was burning up with a fever. And I mean, this little 3-year-old remembers me saying that. And she's like that all the time. And she's got long hair, and her mother does hair, even though she doesn't practice cosmetology right now. She has her license. Her mother won't cut her hair. But we've all been through that with our kids. To put as long as we can before we find a cutter. And she's just a cutie. She's a prima donna like her mother. And then there's, she just started school. She goes to this daycare school thing. Their dad's work. Mom's having a hard time with that. Mom actually called bawling the other day. She was emotionally down at all. And then there's Frank. He has little baby Frankie, who's the 6th generation of Franks. And he came out with red hair when we were all expecting this little blonde towhead. He has red hair, which I believe comes from my sister, because she had red hair when she was born, but it was kind of a shock for all of us. And he is a chubba chub. He is 10 months old, and he's chubby, and he loves to eat, and he eats all people food now, and just loves it. After posting a picture of him from Thanksgiving on Facebook yesterday. His favorite thing right now is I had made Olivia a baby blanket when she was born, and then we made Frankie one, and he likes to put his fingers in it, and it's his favorite thing. Everybody says is that baby blanket. I made it. So my grandson Colin says to me, Grandma, you never made me one. And of course Colin is 13. And so he says, Grandma, this was in January when the baby was born. You have until Christmas. So it paid me a year to make him an napkin. Now, as to whether Grandma made him a napkin or whether he get ones, that will be seen on Christmas Day. So, everybody will have to just wait.
Cool.
Let's see.
So, you have 3 grandkids that are of your natural birth. Then you have some other kids. But before we get into them, let's talk about your kids' husbands. What's Michelle's husband's name?
Michelle's husband is Tyler.
Hey, how would you describe Tyler?
Tyler is... He's kind of like you. And so Michael has a female side. Tyler has a female side.
When you say female side,
Tyler's-
you'll have to explain that.
Very emotional and loving.
Sensitive or effeminate?
Sensitive, caring, loving.
You're calling me in front of a camera loving? Sensitive?
You big baby. Yeah, he loves his wife very much. He writes her beautiful poems all the time, put him in frames. Just recently, he wanted to take her on a real date, so he sent her an invitation. He got dressed somewhere else. He drove over to pick her up at their own house. He got her flowers. He took her out on a date.
Cool.
So he has a very tender side. And then Jen's husband, Derek.
Is
What?
Tyler a Mormon?
Tyler's grandparents and mom were brought up Mormon, but is Tyler a Mormon? No, he's not a practicing Mormon.
Does he have any faith at all, or does he not express anything?
I mean, he doesn't express anything.
But he likes to drink or smoke.
Yeah, they like to have their parties. And,
They don't do drugs.
they don't do drugs.
Are they alcoholic? They don't.
No, because they just have their parties. They don't.
It's not a personal preference every day.
No.
Just social.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's Jen and Derek, and Derek's just a social also. They like to party. They like to get together for football games, San Francisco, and then baseball games, Boston Red Sox. They have their friends over for barbecues, and they have what's called a Friendsgiving, which is the weekend before Thanksgiving. All their friends get together and they have Thanksgiving, so they call it Friendsgiving.
But what's Derek like?
And Derek, he is in sports. He is into football, baseball. Not necessarily playing well. He plays softball.
Is he sensitive?
He's
Is he
into-
green? Is he tall? Is
I'll
he
get
short? Is he fat?
I'll get that. He's into bowling. Maybe lose my train of thought now. Oh, golf. He loves to golf. If he could be out golfing every weekend, he's out there.
Tattoos.
He has lots of tattoos. He has some. He has a tattoo in honor of his father who has passed away. He has a tattoo in honor of his little baby girl, Olivia. They also lost a baby together. He was going to get a tattoo. I don't know if he ever did get a tattoo for the baby they lost. But then he also has a couple of different scriptures that are tattooed too. He is not saved. His family was Mormon also. He just recently had the word blessed right here. So I know he believes in the Lord, but he's not saved.
So what's he like? What's his personality?
So he is, he's a good father. He loves his wife and daughter dearly. He's skinny, but he's getting heavier now. But he's been married a few years. I think that happens to men when they get married. They start putting on weight. He takes really, really good care of Jen and the baby. You know, he's one of those really thoughtful guys that calls his wife on the phone all the time. If she's still at work and he's home, he'll start dinner. He's just
Is he a nice guy, a mean guy? Is he closed? Is he open?
He's a nice guy.
Reserved?
She has her friends and he has his friends. And they both do things separate with their friends, but then they do things together with the friends combined. So it all works, you know, not jealous of each other and their friends like a lot of couples do when they're married.
It's interesting, you keep describing actions, but not the person. Because before you were talking about Michelle's husband as being sensitive or effeminate, and then what he did being that kind of person. I didn't really mention how Derek is.
He loves his daughter very much. He loves
So he's a
his
loving
wife
person.
very much. He takes care of his wife.
Does he laugh? Does he serious? Is he quiet? Is he...
Tyler, Michelle's husband, is quieter than Derek is. Derek's...
Is he loud? Is he like...
Derek's like
is he an
you.
A personality?
Yeah.
Is he out there? Is he over the top?
Derek's like you. He's loud compared to Tyler. Tyler's very soft.
Well, I mean, but in a crowd, is he
Derek's
stand
more
out?
aggressive. Yeah.
Oh, he's aggressive?
Especially if he's had a drink.
So he drinks,
Yes, I would say that.
but no drugs?
No.
Okay. Just a social drink.
Yep.
There's more, well, personality usually comes, some type of personality comes out.
I'll go to the bathroom.
Okay, so we'll wrap this up in a minute. So what's... Frankie's wife,
Becky, when she first met Frankie, was very, very quiet, shy, hardly said 2 words. It was like pulling teeth for her to say anything. But that comes from her life she had with her ex-husband. He was not very nice to her.
abusive?
Yeah. But her and Frank tease each other. You'll see pictures on Facebook where they put frosting all over each other's faces and taking a picture. Or they've had a food fight. They have a lot of fun together. Frank has gotten fat. Because Frank loves to cook, so he cooks for Becky now. And so he's put on quite a bit of weight. He's got a big old belly going there. About her baby, and Frank was getting a little ornery recently because he got laid off. But he's better now that he's back working.
Okay, to kind of bring this to a close, because it's probably long, if you could say one thing to Tyler of how to take care of Michelle, or you'd like to just say something as a mother to a son-in-law, why don't you take a moment and just think about it for a second, and then go ahead and just speak to the camera, look at it, as though you were talking to Tyler.
You know what? I mean, Tyler's such a fantastic guy. There isn't anything I would change. I would just say, keep on doing what you're doing, babe, because they are still so much in love and take such good care of each other. And the only thing is they want to have a baby together, and it's not working. So go to the doctor, Tyler, and get your wife to church and get saved.
Okay, if you were going to take a moment to think about it first and then go ahead and say it, what would you say to Derek about from a mother-in-law to a son-in-law? Speaking and looking at the camera.
I don't have any complaints as a mother-in-law.
Who said complain? What would you like to say to him? Say something to him. You're talking to him.
Yeah, I want them all to go to church, to get saved, and I guess Derek can help a little bit out more with housework, but
That's something a mother-in-law would say. So.
because Jenny runs her own business, and they both take care of Olivia, and
So just talk to Derek.
They both.
You're talking to Derek. You're not talking to a crowd.
Derek, just keep doing what you're doing. Don't forget your wife has her needs too. It's not all about you.
Okay. And to Frank's wife, I can't think of her name. Becky, there we go. To Becky, what would you say to Becky in order to speak to her directly, talking to her, look at the camera, what would you tell her as a mother-in-law?
Becky, just remember, I raised him. I understand, Becky. So if you ever need to call me, call me.
Okay. Now, just to finish it off so that we're pretty close, what would you like to, because the little kids can't know, but what would you tell Colin if you were talking to him directly? Looking at the camera and talking as a grandma.
I tell you to look at the camera.
Well, it's easier.
Colin, don't go astray, babe. Don't listen to Satan and what your friends have to say. Listen to your mother and your dad and your grandma and your grandpa. Because someday you're going to wake up and go, oh, you were right. We know, believe us. So just keep walking the straight and narrow and have your mom get you to church.
Okay, now, without, I'm glad you mentioned church. That's just between you and what you want to say. I'm not influencing you, but now, speaking to Michelle, knowing where you've come from, knowing what you know now, knowing where she's at today, and the friendship that you have with her, as being not just her mother, but her friend. If this was the last day of your life, and you would never see her again,
Don't.
Go ahead, and if you want to cry, you can cry.
Don't.
Go ahead and get emotional. You can get emotional.
I'm not gonna.
I'll get some tissues, but if this was the last recording that they saw of you, then what would you like to say to Michelle? Because this might, you never know. So, go ahead. Anything you want to get off your chest or anything you want to say to her, talk directly to the camera and talk to Michelle.
There isn't anything except love.
Talk to her, not about it.
You will never, ever, 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 ever know, even though you are a mother and have your own child, just how much I love you.
Cool. Is that it?
That's it.
Now, thinking also, again, this could be your last moment on earth, the last chance you get to say something to someone that they will record and remember forever and ever and ever. Speaking to Jenny directly.
Send to listen to the show.
You have to talk to her. It's you talking
Even
to
though
her.
you have a child of your own, you will never, ever, 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 ever know how much I love you.
With the last words that you'd be speaking, to anyone that you might want to get off your chest or anything you want to say, that you want your kids to see and remember, that they would rewind or fast forward to their parts, because I know how people are. We all look at pictures, we want to see them. To Frankie now, is there anything you'd like to say to him, or go ahead and speak directly to him looking at the camera?
Frankie, you will never, ever, ever, ever know, even though you have a child of your own, how much I really, really do love you.
Having had this
There
opportunity,
is nothing like a mother's love. Ever.
we call that filial love, but that's a different kind of agape love. Well, it's not agape love, it's a different kind. But having said that, you sat down now and shared probably for over an hour or more some
No wonder
conversation,
I'm not without them.
some personal information, some faith, some reality, some interpersonal dealings that you have, as well as some embarrassing things. Is there anything that you feel like is bad that you want to get off your chest, or ask God to forgive, or ask people to forgive you for sharing, or people, or is there anything that you feel like you shouldn't have shared?
No,
Or
I'm
is it-
not embarrassed about anything anymore.
Praise the Lord.
You know, because of Jesus. So I don't mind talking about anything.
So now, having gone through this, would you recommend, I know you hate talking to people, would you recommend having a conversation like this to anybody?
With you? Sitting down with you and doing this? No.
Well, then would you recommend,
No.
would you on camera volunteer to do this with someone else?
Would I do this with someone else?
Yeah.
No, because I can't lead a conversation.
What if you were sitting there and your child was, or you were sitting here and one of your kids were sitting over there?
I can do it
to a neighbor.
not in front of a camera.
Couldn't just have a conversation?
Not like you and I have just done. I can have a conversation with my kids, yeah,
Well,
but not in front of a camera.
so you think that having the camera makes a big difference?
Oh yeah, it's very uncomfortable.
So, summing this up, you'd say this was very uncomfortable for you?
Oh yeah, just the camera.
Yeah.
I don't mind anything we talked about, just the camera. No,
It's the camera.
So.
But when you go back and look at it, what will you be thinking?
I hate you, Michael.
That's probably a good place to end it.
I don't know where my toes going the whole time.
That's probably a good way to end it. But I am impressed with you. You have come from where you were to where you are to where you shall be. And I pray a blessing upon you for being so honest and real, being upfront. That I'm sure people in conversations will look at this and be blessed by knowing you a little better, getting a chance to meet you and understand you, where you're coming from, and maybe even get the opportunity to, relate to you a little bit better than what they did before, because they'll have some insight into who you are. I know I have had the privilege and the honor, of listening to you share about your children, about me. You haven't had a chance to really, badmouth me enough.
We
But,
didn't get into the dirt of you. I mean,
Well, I
I
was gonna,
figures right
but you
here.
said you had to go to the restroom, so I was
I
like,
know,
well,
I can't
we'll have to
stand
save
it.
that for another time. So we'll make a date that we promise we will bring Lori back for conversations another time, and we'll devote the entire 3-hour segment to giving the dirt on Michael. Thank you.
Bring your shovel.
Thank you.
Okay. Are we done? Can I go to the restroom now?
Let me go turn it off real quick. So you stay there for a moment, and I'll shut it off, if I can see it. And I thank you for your patience. The Lord bless you.